because I'm a snail and I never gonna fail. And you know what? You're gonna have to bail me out of jail.
Legendary filmmaker Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle Singer Reiner, faced an unexpected personal ordeal inside their own home, a place they believed was completely safe. What unfolded didn't involve a stranger or any kind of break-in, but rather a difficult situation within the family circle that left them deeply shaken.
Sometimes I just come out to gather my sick thoughts.
For decades, Rob has been known for creating heartfelt stories about love and connection, yet behind the scenes his family was facing quiet challenges that few knew about. Reports later revealed that tensions had been growing for some time, suggesting emotional strain that had gone unnoticed. The situation reportedly came to light on December 13, 2025, a night that began with warmth and laughter at a holiday gathering hosted by Conan O'Brien. According to sources, an emotional exchange between Rob and his son Nick Reiner drew attention from nearby guests.
I'm gonna go kill that.
Witnesses described the moment as tense and unexpected, cutting through the festive atmosphere. While details remain limited, investigators are said to be reviewing past statements and family dynamics to better understand what led to the disagreement. What's clear is that behind the glamour and success, even Hollywood families can face deeply human struggles. Witnesses later described Nick Reiner's behavior during the party as noticeably tense, something that stood out even after the night ended. Several guests reportedly recalled a heavy atmosphere, with one saying the exchange between father and son left everyone uneasy. Rob Reiner, according to attendees, stayed composed and tried to calm the situation. Michelle remained close to him, both appearing focused on keeping things private and under control. Their decision to leave the event wasn't rushed or dramatic. It looked like a family choosing to handle a sensitive matter away from public view. Later that same night, Rob reportedly spoke with his longtime friend Eric Idle, and the tone was entirely different. Sources claim Rob sounded upbeat and creative, discussing plans for the long-anticipated Spinal Tap sequel. There was no sign of distress or worry in his voice, just excitement for the future. However, friends have since shared that Rob had previously opened up about feeling emotionally strained over family issues. Those private concerns, once kept quiet, would soon take on greater significance as the night of December 13th transitioned into the early hours of the next day. Authorities later confirmed that an emergency call involving Rob and Michelle Reiner took place early in the morning, just before sunrise. By mid-afternoon, growing concern among friends and family turned into worry when their daughter Romy Reiner reportedly went to check on them after being unable to reach them. Upon entering the home, she immediately contacted emergency services for assistance. Paramedics and police quickly arrived and secured the property, launching a formal investigation into what was described as a serious domestic situation. Officials noted there were no signs of forced entry, suggesting that whoever was present at the time had legitimate access to the home. Neighbors told investigators they hadn't noticed anything unusual overnight, no loud noises or disturbances, making the situation even more puzzling. According to reports, detectives worked to piece together a detailed timeline of events to understand what may have occurred inside the home that night. Police records later indicated that Nick Reiner was seen leaving the residence and checking into a nearby Santa Monica hotel in the early morning hours of December 14th. The case remains under review as authorities continue gathering information. Hotel staff later told investigators that Nick Reiner appeared calm and composed during his brief stay, no visible signs of stress or confusion. He reportedly checked in smoothly, spoke politely, and showed nothing unusual in his behavior. After his checkout, authorities conducted a search of the room as part of their broader investigation. Reports suggest they found materials they believed were relevant to understanding the events at the Reiner family home. This discovery placed Nick within the key timeline being reviewed by investigators. Later that same day, surveillance footage reportedly showed Nick at a gas station near Exposition Boulevard, appearing relaxed as he made a quick purchase before leaving. His demeanor, according to those who reviewed the footage, looked steady and controlled. By that evening, law enforcement located Nick near Exposition Park in Los Angeles. The situation was handled calmly, with officers reportedly describing the interaction as fully cooperative. There was no resistance or conflict. The process unfolded quietly and professionally as authorities continued their inquiry into the unfolding case. By the end of that night, investigators had begun connecting key details across Los Angeles: a reported argument, an unusually quiet home, no signs of forced entry, and a quick series of movements afterward. Yet one major question remained unanswered: what exactly took place inside the Reiner residence? Once the Brentwood home was secured, forensic specialists carefully examined the property. Their approach was precise and methodical, aimed at understanding the sequence of events with scientific accuracy. Every detail, from environmental conditions to physical evidence, was analyzed to create a reliable timeline. With no interior cameras or direct recordings, experts relied on forensic science to determine the approximate timing of what had occurred. They examined measurable environmental factors and other trace evidence to narrow down the crucial window of events. Authorities described the process as slow, meticulous, and deeply technical. The goal wasn't speculation but clarity, piecing together facts to understand how the night of December 13th turned into a mystery that would leave the entire Hollywood community stunned. The medical examiner later determined that Rob and Michelle Reiner had likely passed away in the early hours of the morning, nearly half a day before anyone discovered what had happened. This estimate aligned with investigators' initial timeline, based on movement records and witness accounts. The neighborhood, peaceful and quiet at that hour, remained completely unaware that anything unusual was taking place. That calm silence became a key factor in understanding how events unfolded without immediate detection. Forensic experts focused on analyzing physical evidence and environmental details to piece together what may have occurred during that time frame. Authorities described the findings as deeply concerning, but remained careful to avoid public speculation while the investigation continued. Official reports framed the case as a complex and sensitive domestic matter still under active review. Each new discovery, though technical, added another layer to a timeline that investigators hoped would eventually reveal clear answers about that early morning in Brentwood. Investigators focused on evidence rather than emotion, working carefully to interpret the facts of the case. Based on their findings, authorities formally charged Nick Reiner with 2 counts of first-degree homicide, 1 for each parent. In California, such charges represent the most serious category, reserved for cases believed to involve deliberate action. Prosecutors also added what they called special circumstances due to the involvement of multiple victims, a legal designation that significantly raised the case's severity and potential consequences. The Los Angeles District Attorney's Office described this as the strongest charge they were legally able to pursue, expressing full confidence in the investigation's findings. At that stage, the case officially transitioned from a private family tragedy to a major legal proceeding that drew widespread public attention. With a detailed timeline and confirmed forensic evidence, the courtroom phase began. When Nick Reiner made his first appearance before a judge, the atmosphere reportedly turned heavy and emotional, marking the start of one of Los Angeles's most closely followed legal battles in years. On the morning of December 17, 2025, Nick Reiner made his first court appearance in Los Angeles, marking a major turning point in the case. Until then, the story had unfolded only through official reports and statements, but this hearing brought it firmly into the public legal process. The courtroom was tightly controlled, no cameras, no live feed, and no public broadcast were allowed. Only a limited number of reporters, attorneys, and court officials were permitted inside. These restrictions highlighted the sensitivity and seriousness surrounding the proceedings. When Nick entered, escorted by deputies, the atmosphere was described as tense and silent. Observers noted that his demeanor was calm and reserved as he took his place at the defense table. From that moment forward, every statement and motion became part of the official record, setting the stage for what many viewed as one of the most closely watched trials in recent Los Angeles history. Inside the courtroom, silence filled the air, every sound felt amplified, every movement deliberate. This wasn't just another hearing, it was the moment the quiet mystery from Brentwood officially entered the public legal stage. Observers noted that Nick Reiner appeared calm and restrained as the session began. He wore a standard-issue protective garment used in certain custody settings, something that caught attention but was never directly addressed by anyone in the courtroom. The proceedings moved forward in complete professionalism, focused solely on the law. When the judge read the charges, 2 counts of first-degree homicide, the language was formal and precise. Nick responded briefly when asked if he understood his rights, speaking clearly but without elaboration. That was the only time he addressed the court. Throughout the session, he remained composed and quiet, showing no visible reaction as the hearing concluded, leaving the room in an almost unreal stillness. After the charges were read, the hearing quickly shifted to procedural matters. Nick Reiner's defense attorney requested more time before entering a plea, asking to delay the arraignment. The judge approved the request without issue and scheduled the next hearing for January 7, 2026. The prosecution raised no objections. It was all calm, formal, and by the book. Observers noticed that Nick's attorney was Alan Jackson, a well-known Los Angeles defense lawyer, recognized for handling complex, high-profile cases. His presence signaled that the defense was preparing for a lengthy and carefully planned legal battle. Jackson's reputation for precision and courtroom strategy immediately added weight to the proceedings. As the hearing concluded, Nick was quietly escorted out of the courtroom. There were no dramatic moments, just the heavy awareness that this case was only beginning, and both sides were now gearing up for what could become one of the most closely examined trials in recent Hollywood history. Nick Reiner entered the courtroom quietly, avoiding eye contact with the press and offering no public statements. Both the prosecution and defense remained silent, leaving reporters to quietly discuss what they had just witnessed. Within minutes, the room was nearly empty again, but outside, the story was only gaining momentum. By that afternoon, attention turned to one major question: how was such a high-level defense being funded? Legal experts noted that cases involving multiple serious charges can take years to resolve and often require extensive expert reviews, forensic work, and ongoing filings, all of which come with significant costs. Estimates suggested that preparing a defense of this scale could reach well into the millions before even reaching trial. Because Nick reportedly had no clear active income at the time, speculation began circulating about how the expenses were being handled. Some media outlets raised the possibility of family resources being involved, though nothing has been officially confirmed. For now, the financial mystery surrounding the case continues to fuel public curiosity. As news spread, questions quickly surfaced about whether family-linked funds could legally be used to pay for Nick Reiner's defense. Legal experts weighed in, explaining that the matter is complex. In some situations, shared or inherited assets can be used for legal costs, while in others, such actions may raise disputes depending on ownership and estate structure. Inside the courtroom, however, the topic never came up, no questions were asked about funding, and no statements were made by either side. Officially, the issue remained off the record. Outside, though, the conversation was heating up. Some argued that every person deserves a strong legal defense regardless of circumstance, while others found the idea of using family assets deeply controversial. Reports also suggested that opinions within the Reiner family were mixed. Some relatives were said to be focused on ensuring that Nick received appropriate mental health evaluation and care throughout the legal process. To them, this wasn't only about courtroom outcomes, it was also about addressing long-standing personal struggles that had finally come to light. The case had moved beyond simple legal arguments. It now touched on deeper questions about family, responsibility, and the meaning of justice. Still, none of the reported claims were officially confirmed. There were no verified filings or sworn statements. Prosecutors, however, stayed firm in their position, maintaining that the available evidence supported the most serious charges under state law. Because the case involved multiple victims, the potential outcomes were legally limited, leaving only the most severe sentencing options if a conviction were reached. The situation remained highly serious, with both sides carefully preparing for the next stage of proceedings. Behind the scenes, detectives continued to review findings, while legal teams refined their strategies. Those familiar with the investigation described the atmosphere as tense but controlled, with more developments expected as the case progressed. In the days that followed, public interest shifted toward past comments reportedly made by Nick Reiner. Remarks that, once revisited, appeared to shed new light on how the story was being understood. In past interviews, Nick Reiner had spoken about feeling emotionally distant from his father, filmmaker Rob Reiner. He described growing up with a sense of separation, like an observer within his own family, even though by all accounts Rob was known as a caring and actively involved parent. Those close to the family said Rob maintained strong relationships with his other children and worked hard to balance family life with his demanding career. For Nick, however, that connection didn't come easily. He later explained that while his home life was supportive, he sometimes struggled to feel understood or fully connected. Over time, that quiet isolation reportedly grew stronger, shaping his outlook as he entered adulthood. According to past reports and statements, Nick began searching for belonging outside the family circle, exploring environments that offered freedom but lacked structure. During this period, he also faced personal struggles related to substance use, which led him to seek professional treatment. These challenges, according to those who knew him, became a defining part of his early life story. Nick Reiner's personal challenges were never hidden from public view. His family openly acknowledged his struggles and worked tirelessly to help him recover, seeking professional support multiple times. Nick later admitted that overcoming those issues was extremely difficult, describing periods of progress followed by painful setbacks that tested everyone's strength. Over the years, Nick's life became marked by instability, moving across several states while trying to find consistency and purpose. Despite those challenges, Rob and Michelle Reiner remained deeply supportive, providing care, encouragement, and resources in hopes that he could rebuild his life. They spoke about his journey with honesty and compassion, emphasizing love and accountability rather than blame. In 2015, father and son collaborated on Being Charlie, a film inspired by Nick's own experiences. For a time, it seemed like a breakthrough, giving him structure and direction. But according to those close to the family, that stability eventually faded. The same personal struggles returned, leaving the Reiners increasingly concerned about Nick's well-being and the uncertain path ahead. In the end, the heart of the story wasn't just about conflict, it was about family, love, and years of emotional distance that never fully healed. Those who knew the Reiners said that the tension seen at the holiday gathering had been building quietly for a long time, shaped by years of struggle and misunderstood intentions. In the days that followed, Rob and Michelle's family released a brief joint statement through Roy and Jake Reiner. Their words focused only on love, loss, and gratitude, no speculation, no public debate. They asked for privacy as they processed their grief, choosing silence over attention. A private memorial was later held in Hollywood, attended by close friends and collaborators. It was described as quiet, heartfelt, and deeply respectful, a moment to remember Rob Reiner not only for his extraordinary work, but also for his kindness, mentorship, and lasting influence on everyone around him. If you want to keep up with more in-depth true Hollywood stories, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. There's much more to uncover ahead.